Hello! Today we're doing Glen Scotia. I got myself a tasting kit here from the Dram team, folks. I don't actually know who this is. Anyways, but today we're gonna taste through 5 Glen Scotias. So, this channel is really all about like giving actionable information that people can have when they are googling around trying to find something different and see whether it's worth it or not. And in the realm of Scotch single malt whiskey, there's very few things that really fit that bill better than Glen Scotia does. It's a very small distillery. It's a long-standing distillery. They've been around since like the 1830s, but it's quite small. It's only manned by about 8 people. They've only got 2 stills. And it would probably be completely lost in the shuffle. It's very kind of fermentary. It's very doughy and weird and difficult, but not in the ways that Scotch malt nerds tend to like. There's really no peat on it. At least it's not particularly noticeable. It tends not to get hammered with sherry casks. It's just kind of like fermentary and kind of weird. So it would kind of be lost in the shuffle along with Scapa and Jura, stuff like that, were it not for the fact that it is located in Campbeltown. It is basically down the road from Springbank. And that immediately makes it interesting. It does not get the attention that Springbank does. It does not get the attention that Glen Kilkerran does. It's kind of become the Campbeltown malt of last resort. So you go to the liquor store, you check the shelves for Springbank, no Springbank. You check the shelves for Kilkerran, no Kilkerran. What else is out there? So you start Googling around. What is a good substitute for Campbeltown malt? Lo and behold, there's this other distillery out there, Glen Scotia. How is it? It's bottled at 46%. It might be worth a shot. And that's kind of where it's coming. It's also like there are a ton of Campbeltown malt blends out there, which are basically just Glen Scotias that have been teaspooned with, Springbank or Kilkerran or something, because it's actually like they can charge you more money and it's more attractive to the customer to have a sort of nameless Campbeltown blend that might contain Springbank in it than something that is just sold as a Glen Scotia. That's kind of the place where the distillery is. Happily, they were bought by Loch Lomond, the Loch Lomond folks, a couple of years ago, and they actually seem to have treated the distillery pretty well. They seem to have re-racked some stuff. In previous bottlings I've tried, maybe a little bit too aggressively. There's a lot of really raw oak and some previous Glen Scotias I've tried, but they're presenting it at 46%. They're presenting the stuff, very, very well. So I thought it was time to give these guys some attention. See what we got here. In this little tasting set, I've got the double cask, which is American oak and also PX, Pedro ximenez. I have got the 15-year-old, which is apparently all American oak. 18-year-old, which is also a blend, American oak and Oloroso this time. I have got a little teeny tiny, like, centiliter of the 25. This one's interesting because it's bottled at 48.8%, and not the mere 46 of the others. And this was actually earlier in the set, but I'm moving it to the back end. The Victoriana, which is apparently cask strength, 54.2%. And that's all the information. No information about casks on here. So these are all, with the exception of the 25, these are all 2.5 centiliters, about an ounce. So we're going to do this with no notes. Here we go. Thank you for listening to my babbling. All right, starting with a double cask. It's more quiet on the nose than I was expecting. I was expecting just a rain of vanilla and like raisins from the cask profile, but Not so much. I'm getting a little bit of like um, there's an aromatic, almost a Swisher Sweet kind of thing, like a flavored, cheap flavored cigar, but nice. Yeah, kind of lightly fruity, like I don't know what it was would have been flavored with. Maybe some raspberry in there, maybe some strawberry. Okay, now the raisins. Now that I'm swirling, the raisins and the fig is starting to come out a little bit. Vanilla, and then there's that well, it combines kind of maltiness and like a doughiness to this. Yeah, so I'm getting like like stewed apple and pear, and also that fun, slightly floral fermentary note that I associate with Glen Scotia, but it's also kind of there in Jura. It's there in Scapa. It's in, well, not so much in Scapa. You get it in Tobermory sometimes. A little bit of like, so on the one hand, like a bakery in the morning. That's where things are just have just gone into the oven an hour ago, and they're still still rising. That kind of smell. And a little bit of a beeriness. There's like an amber ale thing going on here. What I was worried about with this was that the PX cask would completely take this over, and that really hasn't happened, which makes me happy. A little bit of coffee, mingled coffee tea. It's a little bit vague. It's nice. It's really sort of maltiness, doughiness, and the kind of Swisher Sweets thing, which is fine. Okay, let's try this on the palate. Ooh, that's fun. Spicy, peppery. Lots of black pepper, lots of kind of a yellow curry thing. Malty again. Apples, pears, a couple of malted milk balls in there. A little bit of vanilla latte, like old tea leaves that you haven't cleaned out of your pot. There's not as much of a fermentary note on this as on the nose. It's kind of there. There's a little bit of like a floral, like a floral thing, and then like that amber ale thing I was getting on the nose. But it's it's more about the spiciness and the kind of maltiness on the palate. Yeah, the vanilla is nice. This is actually kind of okay. I don't think this is expensive. I mean, depending on the score, this may actually be worth worth a grab. No age statement, obviously. I don't really know what else to say about the PX. Isn't really showing up a whole lot. There's that vague Swisher Sweet, flavored tobacco, flavored cigar kind of thing hanging around, but it's really kind of in the background behind the spicy elements and the malt. That's all right. That is actually pretty solid. I'm going to make a note to myself, give this a squirt of water. We'll move on to the 15. All right. Glen Scotia 15. This is fully matured in the finest American oak. What do we got here? Also 46%. So what I'm immediately getting, beyond just kind of American oaky vanilla-iness, is a kind of sawdusty note and a little hint of ginger, which this was what worried me the last time I had the Glen Scotia range, or had some little tastes. Was they seem to be using a little bit of virgin oak, and this is something you'll find also in the Loch Lomond range, which I should also do one of these days. And American virgin oak tends to manifest in malts as sawdust and ginger. And usually it's not super pleasant. And it's not completely overwhelming on this. It's not like the Deanston Virgin Oak, which I really, really don't like. But it's kind of covering over the Glen Scotia-ness of this. Yeah, vanilla. There's a little bit of maltiness again happening in the back. Maybe like a one malted milk ball, like one apple. Very close in the nose. I wonder if water's going to open this up. This was one of the ones I was most excited about, and at least in the nose, yeah, I'm a little meh. It's the virgin oak is kind of getting in the way, and I'm not getting a whole lot else beyond that. All right, let's see if it's better on the palate. I'm really hoping water this opens this up. I have to think about this one. So much better on the palate, but it's still kind of doing a Jekyll and Hyde thing. So you got the influence of the virgin oak there. You got the sawdust, got a little bit of raw ginger. There's some other oaky elements too. Sorry. Certainly the vanilla. A little bit of like just English breakfast tea. But what's making this work for me is the character of the malt. It feels much more, it's much less malty than the previous one. Yeah, those fermentary notes are there. That kind of the floral thing, and the kind of bready, doughy thing. But now it's kind of settled into this heavier style of spirit. It's getting a little bit. I don't know if you've ever had like bourbon cask Mortlock, like old school. It's heading a little bit in that direction. There's a heaviness to this. It's not Springbank heaviness. You might think so because Springbank is down the road, but it's not real. It's making me think more Mortlock than Springbank. It's nice. Yeah, it's just heavy, oily. There's some malt in there, some apple and pear, like that malted milk ball thing again. But what's really doing this for me is the kind of unroasted nut sort of note. Something about this, I know there's no sherry on this, but it actually does remind me of like a Manzanilla or something. It's got that kind of aggressive, minerally, funky line through it. This is good. I like this. The virgin oak is kind of getting in the way for me, especially on the nose, but we'll see how it performs with water. All right, on to our third glass. I really do feel for Loch Lomond. Like, you buy a distillery in 2014. So 8 years ago. You have to put out a new range, but you didn't distill the stuff yourself. You're stuck with these sort of old stocks, and the previous owners were not treating the place with a whole lot of respect. So, what are you gonna do? I mean, you have to re-rack a lot of this stuff into decent casks. I feel for them a little bit. So I'm annoyed by some of the ways these casks are performing, but I understand. Ugh. All right, Glen Scotia 18, 46%. Okay, so first of all, I am getting that sort of raw virgin oak thing again. The the sawdust and the ginger, but I'm also getting some Oloroso kinds of notes in there. A little bit of leatheriness. Not a whole lot of fruit. It's more leatheriness, beef bouillon, black pepper. Actually, the fruitiness I am getting is again the kind of maltiness. There's an apple cheese component to this. Again, Lithuanian dessert. You boil down apples until it's like a taffy. It shows up a lot when you have the combination of a very malty malt with some kind of sherry cask. It shows up a lot. Vanilla. And a little bit of that hint of like Mortlochy style heaviness. There's also that. It's not really floral for me, but it is throwing a little hint of kind of fermentary goodness, like not freshly rising bread this time. It's almost more like bread you left out too long. It's starting to get a little moldy, but you kind of pick it up and smell it. But nice. Here we go, on the palate. Ooh. It tastes like I'm chewing on an expensive cigarette or something. But nice. These are really tough spirits to do with like no notes, very little prep time, because it's very complex and there's lots of little things going on, and it's tough to kind of get a handle on what the actual flavors are. The that kind of unroasted nuts thing I was getting from the previous glass, that's here again. Yeah, but the main sense I'm getting is like chewing on a really, really nice cigarette and kind of enjoying it. Yeah, it's got that kind of Virginia tobacco kind of fruitiness, but also a little bit of what is the burley, that kind of burley nuttiness that you get from sort of older burleys. Obviously, there's more cask influence happening. Ash, English breakfast tea again. That kind of latte note, apple cheese on the palate again. A little bit of pear, not too much. I wasn't getting a whole lot of beeriness in the last glass, but here it's kind of coming back. That's kind of amber ale note. Black pepper. Just kind of like a weightiness, like I'm chewing on heavy metals or something. But again, I'm enjoying it. By the way, I'm not getting really any noticeable peat on any of these, but you know that's okay. You don't need peat on everything. This is nice too. I'm really waiting to see how these react with water, because some of these are kind of on the bubble for me. All right, let's try. Oh, I have to be very spare with this one. Okay, this is the 25, 48.8% alcohol. They only gave me like a centiliter of this. Not picking up a whole lot on the nose. Hello. I'm actually getting a little bit of grassiness on this. Maybe that kind of unroasted nut thing is coming out again. I'm not getting any raw American oak, which is nice. Come on. Sorry, that's about all I'm getting. Okay, maybe a little bit of maltiness, like one malted milk ball is peeking out from around the corner. Hint of apple cheese, again, but that's really about all. This is very quiet on the nose, on the palate. That's actually really nice. First of all, it feels like of all the things here I've had so far, this feels like the least engineered. It doesn't feel like they've tried to slap a whole lot of oak on this to kind of cover over for bad casks. It feels like they just kind of let this be what it is. Yeah, there is actually a kind of a grassy character to this. It's dried grass, but also like dried leaves, and almost like a dried leaf bonfire kind of thing happening. That nuttiness. There's a lot of black pepper. Nuttiness, but again, like unroasted nuts, green nuts. Burley tobacco again. There's a weightiness to this. It's heavy. This is probably it's the most expensive bottle by undoubtedly, but I'm kind of enjoying this the most. It feels the most sort of au naturel. Mm-hmm. I wish I had more of this. That is actually a really nice malt. Okay, I'll give that a little bit of water. This is going to be a challenge. Like just a hair. Okay. All right, and now the Victoriana. Again, no age statement, but it is cask strength. Let's go. Oh no! Sample bottle disaster. Stay. Oh. They've done something with the wood on the Victoriana. I remember this. This was the one I really didn't like last time I had it. Yeah. Sawdust, ginger. There's more going on. It's very peppery. Ooh. What is that smell? There's a kind of chemically smell. It's like a cleaning fluid smell. It's not completely awful. But and the malt is peeking through that. There's like the appley pear malted milk ball thing. But yeah, the overall sense is a lot of wood, a lot of really raw wood, and then the malt somewhere kind of underneath that. English breakfast tea again. It's clearing out now that I'm kind of swirling it. There's some some kind of dried fruits coming through, more pepper. There might be some sherry cask in this. I don't know what kind of cask they were using. A lot of this just smells like weird oak. Can I make that a flavor, like a tasting note, just like weird oak? Is that fair? Can I? I don't know what else to use. Okay, let's see what happens in the palate. It's not bad. But yeah, the wood is a lot. Let me see if I can sort this out. Okay, so the underlying character of the malt is really, really subdued here. I'm not really getting a lot of character coming directly from the spirit, like that kind of nice maltiness, the beery notes, the nuttiness I was getting kind of in the middle stuff. None of that's really there. What I am getting is just a lot of different kind of secondary elements, oak qualities, kind of dried fruit, miscellaneous all the dried fruit. Yeah, on the palate, it's much more sherry than it is on the nose. Ugh, it's a lot. Black pepper, figs, dates, prunes, raisins, like a cortado in there. Whatever sherry they were using on the 18, I like it better than the sherry they were using on this. The virgin oak I was getting on the nose isn't really showing up here. There's a little bit of sawdusty character. I'm not getting the ginger notes. I think maybe that's just because like it's being run over by the onslaught of sherry notes, and it's not. But I mean that's may sound great to you. Like you're like, yeah, I love them their sherry notes, but it doesn't feel like. It feels like it was all done very quickly. It feels like they had some pretty, some stocks sitting around in dead casks, and they threw them into really, really, really active wood for a short period of time, and that's kind of what we got here. It feels like all the oak influence happened in a very short span of time. It has the same problem with a lot of these kind of oak-driven malts that I taste. It just kind of feels anonymous. Like I'm not getting Glen Scotia here. I'm just getting, oaky malt. But it isn't too bad. I've had a lot worse. Okay. Let's go back through these. Wait, I have to add water to that, don't I? Squirt. At least 3. I'll leave it at 4. Add more if we need it. All right, let's go back through these. Thank you for humoring me as I do this. These are tricky. There's a lot going on with this spirit, and the when you're tasting something like this, or Jura, for example, in your mind, in the back of your mind, you have to keep the story of Tobermory there, right? Because Tobermory during the late 90s, kind of early 2000s, was a laughingstock. Like it was considered one of the worst whiskeys made in Scotland, Tobermory and Lechig. Like if it was on discount, you might, heavy discount, you might buy a bottle, but otherwise stay well away. And then the stocks, particularly the Lechig stocks from the late 90s, started to turn out, and everyone changed their tune because they were really, really, really good. And so you have, that's a scenario where a kind of weird under the radar distillery, which is not thought of as particularly good and has some weird notes going on, came from nowhere to kind of steal everyone's heart. Don't think that can't happen again with, say, with Scapa or Jura or Glen Scotia here. Like it just needs to few changes, and they're off and running. Anyhow, just a quick word to not ignore these guys, despite the fact they don't say Springbank or Kilkerran on them. Back to the double cask. Here we go. On the nose, more peppery. There's some sawdusty elements coming out now. Basically, the oak, the non-PX oak has kind of come out a little more. That's the main change here. On the palate, the finish is interesting. The finish is very nice initially, and then it kind of falls off a cliff. Yeah, it's like Swisher sweets, maltiness, some kind of stewed tea elements, and they're there, and then they're just kind of gone. Black pepper, again, not a whole lot of change from before. It's just the wood step forward a little bit more. What would I give this? It's kind of okay. I would go like an 83 plus on this. You know, it's good. It's not my favorite malt in the world, but as a young, relatively characterful malt that's had a lot of wood hammered onto it, probably in a short period of time, I think it's okay. If you find this at a good price, it is worth your buying. All right, moving on. Glen Scotia 15. I am really, okay, if the wood stepped forward on this one, I'm really, really scared if the wood stepped forward on this one, because the 15 and the 18 were the ones where I was getting virgin oak, and that scares me. Nope, it's still in check. Actually, really hasn't developed much at all with water. It's still showing that kind of heaviness I was talking about, that sense of, like, I don't know, soak some burley tobacco in oil and mix in some, some green nuts or something. That's kind of the character you're getting here. But then there's a bunch of malty stuff on the side. The oak influence. Yeah, it really hasn't developed. It just kind of smells the same. On the palate. Weirdly enough, it's the fermentary notes. The kind of floral, slightly beery elements. They pop up in the middle of the finish and carry through on the finish in a way they weren't doing without water. And it's really elevating this a little bit. Yeah, the effect of water is to improve the finish. Not a ton, but quite a bit. And it's not because of the oak. The oak is present. It's under control, but it's present. It's because of those kind of fermentary notes coming forward, and that's kind of great. Yeah, Springbanky fans and Kilkerran fans aren't going to find this, Campbelltowny enough for their taste. But yeah, I'm sort of enjoying this. I'm going to give this an 85 plus. I actually wouldn't mind owning a bottle of this. That's pretty solid. I will say what I'm really excited to see is the new stocks. under new ownership kind of finally reach their age. So in about, what, 2-3 years, we're going to start seeing, Loch Lomond's Glen Scotia show up at a 10-year age statement or whatever. And those will be interesting to see. I'm more interested in those than I am in kind of these guys. But, this is what's out there. Ooh. Sorry, I was taken aback by where this has gone. So that kind of artisanal cigarette thing I was getting on the palate? It's kind of shown up in the nose now. Yeah, there's some kind of generalized sherry notes, and yeah, I'm smelling like a really expensive, nice cigarette. Burley, Virginia. Black pepper, the dried fruit. Not a ton of change on the nose. The virgin oak is actually receded, which makes me happy. On the palate. Oh. The kind of chewing on a cigarette effect is still there, but the finish gets kind of awkward now. Ooh. So I was expecting, what is that? The problem to come through with the oak, and it really feels like it isn't. So most of what's happening with this is a nice kind of ashy, tobacco-y thing with a little malt to back it up, but then it gets kind of a little bit sour in a bad way, like yogurt, but not nice on the finish. Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, there's like a kind of Greek yogurty thing that kind of pops up in the finish, and it doesn't really work. It's like the rest of it is kind of like malty and spicy, and kind of overstewed tea and tobacco, and that just kind of sticks out. I'm not going to knock this down too much. I'm going to just give it an 85. I mean, it's nice otherwise. It's I wouldn't mind, this, like a lot of these, I really wouldn't mind having a glass of this. No, I'm going to give this an 85 minus. The yogurty thing is just bothering me too much. All right, 85 minus for the 18. And now the 25. What little of it I have left. Hopefully I can get some notes out of this. Yeah, it's that kind of green nuttiness. The almost manzanilla kind of note is really nice. Damn it. I was hoping this would collapse and I could say the 15 is the one to buy, but I don't think it is. So the nose is really kind of step forward a little bit with water. Different tobaccos again, like younger tobaccos this time, despite the fact that it's an older whiskey. All right, on the palate, here we go. That's awesome. That's actually really, really good. Man, I wish I had more time to spend with this. So very spicy, kind of leafy, bonfire-y, nutty. With water, this has a tremendous finish. This just, like, it arrives on a kind of fruity, spicy, malty sort of note with apple cheese. And it kind of develops in its spiciness. There's like a little bit of a curried note. And the finish is just, textbook black pepper and like just tea tannins, and it's really nice. I have now finished my glass. Oh man, there's a little bit of that floral thing showing up too. Yeah, so I was writing an 89. I'm now going to write an 89 question mark because I feel like I haven't spent enough time with this 25 to really, give it a proper score. It's just, there's too much going on. But at least, yeah, but ballpark, I'm going to call this an 89, which puts it well above a hell of a lot of other older officially bottled whiskeys I've had in the last couple of years. Yeah, how much? I don't know what the cost on this is. It's not going to be cheap, but it's certainly going to be cheaper than a lot of big names. And I think this is better whiskey than a lot of the big names. Keep this 25 on your radar. This is really, really nice. I might have underrated this at 89, but I'm not. I'm going to keep it where it is because I ain't got more to try. 89 question mark. And the Victoriana. I'm going to need some water after. This is going to be such a step down after we tap to the 25. Okay, here we go. With water, this is actually kind of pulled back a little bit. Yeah, I'm just getting kind of a generalized whiskey woodiness, dried fruit. Not really any sawdustiness anymore, which is nice. Dried fruit, vanilla, pepper, incense maybe. No sign of the malt in sight. It's not that kind of whiskey. All right, let's see what happens on the palate. With water, it kind of sorts itself out. Still very kind of, it comes off as extremely, like this is very forward on the mouth. The finish is not going anywhere near my molars. But it's got some nice things going on. With water, kind of, it becomes more balanced. The tobacco, the kind of sherry notes, the dried fruit, a little bit of leather coming through on the palate now. Some kind of toasted nutshells over stewed tea, coffee dregs sorts of notes. Touches of vanilla too. It does improve the water. But it's just so not Glen Scotia. It's just kind of anonymous woody malt. I don't know quite what to do with this. It's anonymous. It's a little bit boring, but it's actually especially once you add water to it, it actually comes off as pretty well made. So I'm gonna give this like. Call it an 84 minus. Yeah. Wait, is it better? It's about kind of the same territory as double cask. Am I getting that right? No, I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to stick with that. The double cask has more maltiness going on. The Victoriana, it's at a higher strength, obviously. That's helping a little bit. The Victoria just has more wood going on. So 83 plus for the double cask, 84 minus for the Victoriana. They're in the same territory. All right, but your winners today are most certainly the Glen Scotia 15. I'm kind of fond of this. It's 85 plus, and definitely the Glen Scotia 25. If you can find this at a reasonable price, and you're in the market for an officially bottled 25-year-old, for someone who, it has to be someone who's a malt nerd, right? Because this is not doing what all the other 25-year-olds are doing. This is not like Johnny Walker Blue Label. That's just, kind of in single malt form. This is actually a complex and delicate and layered style of whiskey, this 25-year-old. So what do we got? Double cask, 83 points. 83 plus, I'm sorry. 85 plus for the 15. 85 minus for the 18. 89 question mark. I think if I kept drinking more of this, I would put it higher. Let's leave it at that. 89 question mark for the 25. And the Victoriana gets an 84 minus. And that's where we are. Thanks for watching. Keep an eye on Glen Scotia. The new ownership seems to be doing a lot of things right, and it's just a kind of fascinating old distillery with a ton of character. And usually that's a winning combination. Thanks for watching, and cheers.